I'm Brian V, and this is Why We Work. Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with Joey Onley. Joey is a Canadian weather forecaster. He is a talented musician, and he's a passionate firefighter. Actually, he's just a general mountain man. He's a man of many trades. Today, I want to find out from him how we can enjoy nature more as we live these busy lives. Join me today in my conversation with Joey Onley. I'm Brian V, and this is Why We Work. Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with Joey Onley. Good day, fine
Good
sir.
evening.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for coming on here, Joey. I know, as I said in the introduction, you're overall mountain man, busy man. I think so. You have many trades, you have many abilities. Would you be able to give us an idea of kind of the industry that you're in and some of the things that you're doing now?
See, that's the funny thing is I'm really in no industry in some ways, right? I've been selling firewood this winter. In the summertime, I work as a firefighter, for wildland firefighter. I'm on all First Nations crew. I'm a trauma medic, but I'm not really working for anybody right now. I am a local firefighter, a training officer with our department here in Wells, in our small little community of 250, 300 people. Out in the backwater of the mountains here. I've been able to sort of get by as well as I can, and it's not always that easy, but yeah, that's how it is, right? So there's work that you do for an employer, and then there's like just the work you do, and so I fit into that category a lot these days. And but yeah, I work. That's the thing, and all these different trades and talents come in handy, whether it's my radio reports for C4 Radio in Prince George, or my own podcast I've been putting on here now, or just my history as a musician, my songwriting history, which uh, means once in a while I get some royalty check here and there. So all these little fingers in all these different pies that in the past I've been a radio DJ, I've been a newspaper editor. I
Well,
worked at the
Joey,
state.
as you go back, I'd like to even start from the beginning, and then we'll work our way back into the things that you've been doing. So, since you are a man who does what you do, right, the work that you do, when did all this start? When did you get your first job? What was the first thing that you did, maybe as a teenager or even preteen?
Um, a lot of my first jobs were social work jobs and things like that. Uh,
What
and
would
as I
that
got,
entail?
um, well, I don't know, like it's not that exciting. I mean, just summer jobs and whatnot as
Yeah.
but getting into university and whatnot. So, but then again, like even as a young person, as a Dutch farm kid, there was animals to feed, and there was work to be done. There was wood to get in. There was school to do, right? So there's always that busyness of being busy. And I think like the most important thing for me is finding in my life the sense of being productive in one way or another, and chasing that productivity
Hmm.
wherever my creativity leads it. So I mean, yeah, this I finally got this brand new computer, and I finally have a computer that I can actually do video editing with, and I'm taking my creativity to this different level after, like I say, I've had this very bizarre long trip through planet Earth here, right? Where if I just gave you a list of all the different kinds of jobs I've done here and there and everywhere, it's it a lot of people would just tilt, really. Yeah.
I don't want to go through all of the jobs, but I do like the idea of when people first start, their motivation, and then their kind of the motivation of why they're doing things now. So we get the bookends of some of the careers that people are living. So as a
Right.
Dutch farm boy, you worked at probably pretty young, right? 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, even younger than that. There'd be
Yeah.
haying jobs and things to do. I mean, one of the first things I can recall ever doing was that was useful to the farm was back then we didn't have a round baler. It was a square baler, and so you'd have to have someone come along and pick up the bales, and throw them on the wagon. So the tractor that's driving the wagon is going, 2 kilometers an
Yeah.
hour in first gear. Then of course the aunts and uncles, they can pick the bales up. They're strong.
See,
So
I was gonna say I did this as
you
a
throw
kid
the
too.
6-year-old kid on.
Were you throwing them up? I'm like, you are a mountain man. You were
No,
organize them on the truck, right?
you put the 6-year-old kid on the seat of the tractor in first gear, and
Oh, you were driving the
you know,
tractor. Oh, you
you
got a
feel like
better job than I did.
you feel like you're doing something pretty awesome until you're old enough to lift the bales.
Enjoy it while you can.
Yeah,
So that's great.
but
Starting
yeah,
as a
all
farmer.
these different kinds of talents. I mean, I've been lucky in some ways that other people haven't been. I
Mhm.
don't know. I mean, that might sound wrong. I have this big creativity and this big um, just constant fascination with things, and I'm just always involving my things in ways subtly. At the same time, I live a fairly slow life up here in the mountains,
Mhm.
so it's sort of bizarre that way.
When you were
That
a farm boy, so when did you pick up music then? Because you sent me some of your songs. You're very talented. You're lyrically literate, right? You just have a way with words. When did your passion or your when did you start picking up an instrument or when did you start singing?
I guess one of the things with my family that is again a bit of an exceptional circumstance is that my opa, my grandfather, um, he's been a church organist now for almost 80 years. He's always played in a church, and he's very good. And he could play accordion quite fantastically. And my uncle Gary, he's 4 years older than me. He could play piano from the time he was a kid underneath the piano. My mother, a choir director, and my
Wow.
uncle Frank play piano, sing. And so we had this family. The mom for 4 or 5 years in my childhood. Our small town, Madoc, Ontario. She was with a man named Hugh who owned the Madoc Music Center. So her and Hugh ran the music store. So there I was running around picking up. And of course, being a left-handed kid, eventually, I want an instrument. I want a guitar, Mom. And she says, "We're gonna get you a right-handed bass." I was like, "A right-handed bass?" She's like, "You're not gonna learn how to play left-handed because you'll thank me someday." And that's true. Every guitar I see, I can pick up and play. no, no bizarre. Yeah, the left-handed guitarist, but and then I learned to play drums both hands. So certain instruments, it doesn't really matter. But I have that struggle with my own kids now because they're immersed in the world of music as well, right? So poor Willow, she wants to play fiddle and everything left-handed, but it's not. It doesn't shape that way. Oh, poor kid. She'll get there.
You mentioned university, so as you were coming up through high school, was there any particular job that you had for a period of time?
Nothing specific in that
Hmm.
way, just I guess my short attention span and my high creativity have
Hmm.
always kept me going from place to place to place. So um, for some people, they get a career and they kind of stick with that and pursue that. And for me, I've always been able to find ways. And I don't know. I own this bizarre mountain lodge, and yeah, something about the way I've done things has made sense. But I've had to really work to earn that. I didn't get music. I didn't get a record label. I didn't apply for grants. So with our music. Like we went on the road and we played 2,000 shows, and we played and we played and we
When did you
played.
start your band, the Joey Only?
After maybe 5 years of solo playing, in which it was
Yeah.
never really my plan um, to take that anywhere. I played guitar on my side. I thought I was a bass player and a drummer, and I didn't fancy myself to be a stage presence as a singer unnecessarily, right? But I got sort of thrust into that position, and then I guess finally I was up in the Yukon playing. over 15 years ago, well over. And I just ended up having a band the whole time I was there, like a couple musicians I knew there who played together a lot. I just loved it so much after a month. I was like, man, I want my own country band. And I went back to Vancouver and found out that nobody in that city knew what country music was, much less how to play it. So then I had to find some musicians and teach some of them, and they taught me in return. We went on
So
this epic run of traveling Canada and getting to, in some ways, I'd say, live the dream.
mhm.
And I mean, go figure. A kid from poverty whose dad went to prison. It's not like I come from some. I'm not a trust fund kid. I just followed my bizarre fascination wherever it was pointing me. And it led me to work at the safe injection site in Vancouver, and it led me to working underground and mining. And it's led me to cowboy jobs of all sorts. So yeah, now I'm selling firewood right now. But my truck broke last week, so I'm in trouble this next week. We're gonna see how that works out.
Yeah, I heard you mention the weather is a little bit unusual this year, so not as many people are buying firewood.
No, that's not the case. It's still, I mean, here in Wells, we're 4,000 feet above sea level, and
Mhm.
and it's serious mountain country here, and we're quite far north even compared to most of the rest of where people in Canada live. So we're still having a winter here. Now we haven't had a -30 to -40 snap, which has been nice. But I guess with my YouTube videos and whatnot, I promote with for interior weather and wilderness watchers. Um, Bad weather is good for business, I like to say. So there's snowfall warnings all over southern BC right now, and everyone who loves to ski and loves the snow is excited about it. That Where was I heading with this? Yeah, just the uh, the
Well, you
work on the
mentioned your
weather
truck.
itself.
Your truck broke down, and I was saying you said you were in trouble. So I said that the weather, maybe you weren't selling as much wood as recent, but
Right. So yeah, I got in a tangent there. Yes, but it's still yes. It's what I was gonna say. Right, was that bad weather is good for my Facebook group. So
yeah.
all this snow has got my videos and my posts buzzing this last few days.
What
That's
brought you to Wells?
um just in my life of being a musician, traveling around. I ended up finding it by accident,
Hmm.
and I didn't find it. Like there's a festival here that's quite famous called the Arts Wells Festival, and it wasn't really a thing at the time when I first came here. I was playing music in Quesnel, and I said to some people there, like, "Is there mountains nearby we can climb?" I said, "Well, out in Wells." I was like, "Wells, what's that?" So I came out here and hiked to the top of Mount Marie and looked around and said, "Yeah, this is Skookum." And
Which is, what does that mean? Skookum.
Skookum, that's awesome.
Okay.
Whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a BC native word, and yeah. So
Is
when I
it
was in Quesnel
completely
that summer,
different? Is it
when
completely
I
different than what you're used to, Wells? Growing up, you mentioned
um
Ontario.
well, I had sure, but I mean, I'd already been in BC for a
Hmm.
number of years, and I've been a mountaineer through much of my life, right? So it wasn't like the climate or the terrain or what was here was anything that I wasn't expecting. So what ended up happening was while I was staying in Quesnel that summer and playing some of those gigs, my buddy and I wrote a song called "Smells Like Quesnel" because there's a pulp and paper mill. Quesnel smells like the pulp and paper mills. It's kind of a funny song. But then the organizers of the festival here heard the song and said, "We have to get that guy at the festival." So then I came to the festival. I was like, right on. Like, I really like this town now, second time here. And then I came back the next year to play the festival, the next year after, and I took a real trip into the mountains at that time and said, yeah, there's nobody out here. This is no park. It's out in the deep Caribou Mountains, just over yonder here. It's as fantastic as anything you'll see in the Rocky Mountain parks, except there's just nobody out there. It's You just gotta know how to get there and have the know-how and the grit and tough and smarts and the truck, and there's all that wilderness to play in. So
What do you
when we
think?
seen this place for sale, we finally made sure we could get a hold of it.
So you have a lodge there, is it?
Yeah, it's it's a dilapidated old building in some sense. It used to be the lumber depot here back in the old gold mining era, and now it's slowly been fixing it for 12, 13 years, right? And making it non-condemnable. And it's 12,000 square feet. And how many people have that? A lot of it upstairs is like a big open barn.
Hmm.
But that's okay. I still have lots of cool stuff in the open barn, the wood shop, and whatever, right? So it was a cheap building that required everything to be dealt with, but it was a great life investment that
What
a few of us made together.
What do you find that people who live in bigger towns, cities are really missing about nature? What is it that we're just not getting? And I know you got a new computer and you don't mind technology so much, but there's a lot of people out
No,
there, including myself, we can get sucked into watching this or that or going downtown in this busy city life of subways and taxis and all this stuff. What are we missing by not taking some time to get out into nature and maybe even considering living in it?
well, one of the sad things I think for a lot of people who I observe when I've been guiding or out in the mountains with them is that you have to be trained in how to really see what's out there in the first place. And of course, everyone can get out there and say like, that's a pretty mountain, but there's so much going on the slope of that mountain, in the forest and in the weather above and in the ground below. There's so much actually happening, and what I find urban people are especially guilty of is they're very trained to not make eye contact. So what they do is they walk around, with their head sort of facing downward, and it's a dangerous way to
Mm.
travel. First of all, and secondly, you really miss the subtle details that are happening, right? So I've heard people, my friends of mine who live down in the city, say things like, well, you can never be unhappy. They got memes, right? You could never be unhappy and taking a walk in nature. I was like, well, you've never had to walk home with a sprained ankle. You're like, what do you mean? Like, I've been plenty unhappy plenty of times out there, but I just don't really mind all that much either. I mean, it is what it is, right? Well, it's the life I'm going to live. I have to be tough about it. So I don't expect. I'm bad for not telling anyone where I'm going or what I'm doing, because I don't. If I decide to stay out overnight or not come back for a day or two, I don't want anyone sending a search party. I'll be fine.
Mm.
So that's my relationship. It's not. I'm not going and spending time with nature. I guess it's like I'm just hanging out in my home.
Mhm.
To me, the mountain is. So there's different spirits you can have when you're out there. You know, you could be a lot of. But I've always felt more like the spirit of a predator, where my head is up, my ears are open. I'll stop and look behind me, and I look up a lot. I'm a danger tree assessor in wildfires. So one of my, when they realize you're a weatherman, you're also the guy who's always looking up and you know a lot about trees. Maybe you should be the danger tree assessor, because you have that scouting job and some of my native bros on the crew, if Rodka and I are working together, we just have this way without talking of moving and
Mm.
just taking in everything that's going on in the space. I see so often when I'm out with people who don't spend a lot of time or don't have that association, there's a distraction that's they just don't they can't fully turn off. And I mean that might sound judgmental, but that's my hard observance as somebody who spends a lot of time in grizzly bear country. It's
No,
dangerous here.
you're right. No, you're right. And there's one thing I observed, and I live in South Korea in a big city, and I find my eyesight as getting into my 40s is getting worse. It seems to be getting worse. So if I'm reading something, screen things, driving down the road, things are foggy. But if I go jogging or hiking in a mountain, I don't see blurriness. It seems like my eyes, and I could be just totally out to lunch, but I think the natural light or whatever is going on there, it just seems like my eyes, this is where they belong, not in
Well,
this sort of fakeness that I'm around all the time.
it's the hardness of the objects, right? So everywhere you look is these hard lines that are, and that's very much the urban world. Whereas
Mm,
in nature, if you see a hard line, it should stand out quickly to you as you know the
mm,
back of a moose or
mm,
something in the brush that has this
mm,
hardness to its form that doesn't quite belong and will catch my eye. In nature everything is completely random in its shape and its form and how it grows and how it behaves. There's these generalities that are kind of true, but you know this animal tends to do this. But I've seen predators make meals of berries and heard of wolves snacking on grasshoppers. And nature has its own sort of tendency, whereas the urban jungle is very hard, bright.
mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And reflective of heat and light. And so, yeah, I mean, I find for sure the softness, unless of course it's a bright sunny day here, but even then the softness of nature in that sense has it's and also in the stillness, it's really good for your ears. And I
Mhm.
don't think most people these days sit in silence and just allow the silence to be what it is, right? And there's a lot to be learned in silence about yourself, but also just in every little detail around you. In the mountains, so many things can kill you. People spend so much time worrying about the bears, the grizzly bears, and whatnot, but it's actually so unlikely to be killed by a grizzly bear. And there's so many ways to die out there, and people do it every day. And if once in 3 years a bear kills someone in Canada, it's a headline news story. But people go out there and make those mistakes every day because they don't have that focus of their vision and the ability to just sort of have the empty mind of the predator of what goes through the mind of the lynx when he's hunting the rabbit. It's not thinking about this and that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's like 1, 6. You know what I mean? And nose is open, ears are open, eyes are open. Everything is being taken in. He's a data gathering machine. He's not trying to project his vision of the world onto it. He's totally accepting the world for what it is
Mm.
and missing nothing about what's happening around him.
Yeah, we
I
can.
feel like people don't have that. I call it a killer instinct, but I don't mean viciousness or being
Hmm.
mean.
Hmm. Survival. We met through the East Coast weatherman Frankie McDonald. He's my unofficial manager now, telling me to interview. And you have the West Coast covered, but I wonder your view of meteorologists who we see on TV. And as you're talking about the man with the killer instinct, with your nose to the ground, right? Your ears are perked, and you know what's going on because you're in the midst of it. what is the difference? And not to knock meteorologists, but I think you
No, because
have
I refuse to.
yeah, you
I
have
refuse to knock them.
you have, but you have maybe an advantage, maybe what they don't have, sitting behind their desk and reading reports.
Well, they have an advantage that I don't have too.
Yeah.
So um, this is how I've been kind of likening it lately. When I've worked in mining in the past, I generally found myself in the geology department, and either as a geotech or as a prospector. So I'd work with the geologist, or in the engineering department, I'd be the helper to the surveyor. So I knew how to run surveys and do surveys of all sorts and collect data, but he was the one that had the official professional stamp that he stamped on the paper.
Hmm.
My relationship with some of the meteorologists in this province, and I pay attention to what they're saying and take very serious account of. They're the ones who tell me the direction of things. Um, but on the other hand, I have my own way of speaking to the greater world. I have my own powers of observation, my own network of people reporting in what they're seeing, and I'm able to formulate my own forecasts that are pretty damn reliable. Um, so I liken that, being the storm chaser or the storm spotter, to being the prospector, right? You're not the geologist, but you speak their language. You know what's going on. And if you ever talk to a good prospector, you know, they'll blow your mind with what they know. That old Gary Polishchuk there, after 50 years of prospecting and being from a gold mining family, there was not one kid who could walk out of university as a full-fledged geologist that could tell him anything, because they didn't know. Like, they know what the book said.
Hmm.
So that experience is important, right? At the same time, um, it's always the prospector who's working in concert with the geologist, and it's always the storm chaser and spotter working in concert with the meteorologist. So it's not an oppositional relationship whatsoever. Sometimes people, I mean, you keep plugging data into these models, and the models keep changing. And so they're sitting way down there in Vancouver, 900 kilometers from here, guessing at which model. Well, over the course of the night, something happened in nature that changed some of the data a little bit. And what ended up happening was not what the model said was going to happen. But I did have the advantage of sitting here on top of the mountain, looking at the sky, saying, well, okay, this seems like A, B, and C was going to happen the next 24 hours. So I had that advantage of just being there. But also, when I make my forecasts, like, people really love my forecasts in this province and rely on them. And they say things that disturb me, like, you're better than the weatherman. And that bothers me, because it's an attack on science, and I
Hmm.
can't accept that compliment,
Hmm.
because I'm not better than the weatherman. I just have the advantage of, um, so when I do my radio broadcast for Prince George tomorrow morning, it's one city, so I have to guess some numbers. But can you imagine if you're Johanna Wagstaff at CBC, and you have to forecast for an entire province that's got so many microclimates and different kinds of terrain. And I mean, that's a big project, and she's got to put a number on that town. Well, so that you can look at your phone in the morning, because you don't know anything about weather, and just see some symbols, like, it's a sunshiny symbol, and it says chance of rain, and it's got some numbers here: 25 degrees and a low of 15. And then it gets up to 28 degrees that day. Well, she was wrong. So I'm able to be a lot more generalized,
Hmm.
because I'm usually talking about the weather picture across the province in descriptive form. And so the group members really love that, because it's sort of they can understand it. And over the years, people who've been in part of it a long time have really learned to speak the jargon themselves. And we keep growing and growing and growing. And
What
we're
is
getting
your
such
group
value.
Yeah, what is the group name, and when did this start, and how did it, obviously moving to Wells and having a desire to learn more about nature and you're being happy and content there, you had a desire and a passion for weather or how things change. When did this group start, and how is that going along?
Well, like the love of weather in science has been a lifelong passion. This is nothing new. I
Hmm.
mean, I spent my life with my nose on the ground. The group I started, it's Interior Weather and Wilderness Watchers here in British Columbia. I started it in 2014 with just 100 people I knew in the province. Just kind of, I had kind of hopes that maybe it would become something someday, but
Hmm.
and then it did. And I guess too, my dog's running around making noise. When you keep making spot on calls about things that come to happen that are serious, like big fire seasons. And I'm sitting here for a week saying, like, that Friday setup's looking bad. Like, it's not going to be any rain, man. There's a lot of lightning coming, and for a week I'm saying this, and it, the shares spread like wildfire once you're right.
Hmm.
And next thing you know, your group keeps growing and growing slowly. Until recently, did nothing to promote it. Just kept uh, putting up maps and talking about what was on them. Finally, the group helped me fundraise up this computer, and I've started making YouTube videos, and I just see this time not so long ago where the weather group was small and it got big, and there was a time in not that I achieved superstar status or nothing like that with my music, but there was a time where I was sitting there thinking, like, well, what if I could meet Joe Keithley and Gord Downey and Buffy St. Maurice someday, people like that. And then, it all starts small and just keep being who you are and following your passions, your love, and things will happen. If you build it, they will come. If they don't, well, you will. So
How far is your geographical forecasting now? Is it in the immediate area? Is it BC? Is it across Canada? Now that you have a connection with Frankie, so you might even be throwing some things towards his way.
I'm definitely with our show together, the Meteorological Report, which we filmed tonight and is uploading. Um, it's definitely targeted to be across Canada, somewhat comical weather show. But for interior weather and wilderness watchers, I generally speak just to the what we call the interior regions of British Columbia, so non-coastal BC. We do have quite a few people from the coast who follow what I'm saying and whatnot, but they have their own. Like the whole point of the group when it started was if you turn on the weather network, they'll maybe mention Kelowna, Victoria, and Vancouver, and then move on to Alberta and talk about Calgary and Edmonton. But so for the vast majority, it's a humongous province, and there's just this vast majority of people who work in the bush and garden and farm and hike and play and spend all this time outside here, really living on the land one way or another, and they want to know really what's going to go on here, and it's been the mistake of the major weather reporting services to not cover smaller regions. So we did that.
You, with your new computer, you could probably get however you want. I mean, you have a great background there, which is just your natural background, but you can start doing your own weather forecast for those small places, and you could send out specific reports to specific towns if you so choose.
That's exactly what's starting to happen. I mean, I've had this computer less than a week, so I've been just learning how to do video editing on my own without the co-owner Josh's help, who's a technical wizard. But I need to be able to sit down and
Hmm.
grab my computer, go anywhere, film a tornado in Alberta, and make a video, and have it on the news. I needed to be
What's
able to.
you and they could will share with you. I saw that you mentioned that report, the meteorologist for CBC, was it? I saw that interview. So you're getting some traction now. So once you start
Yes, definitely.
getting that experience with your computer and putting that stuff up, there's nothing that will stop you. And I'm sure people love the fact how honest you are and your willingness to say, I'm not going to be so specific on something, but I'm going to give you the knowledge that I have based on the experience I have.
Well, I love saying check your local forecasts, or I like saying putting context to things too, like with the snowstorms that are happening in British Columbia right now, tonight. A lot of places are experiencing rain, but you go up a couple hundred feet in elevation and it's snowing there. So what we have is a dangerous setup on the roads where slush and ice and things like that can form, right? So it's putting those numbers into context for people. Like, what does that really mean? Um, you might see in the summertime a thunderstorm icon and it says 90%. And when you see that, you think, okay, well, that means 90% chance of a thunderstorm. But when I see that, I know what it's saying is like, chance of bad thunderstorm. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, so it's just putting that into context because we have these people who work in the wilderness and they get up in the morning and there's no severe storm warnings put out by Environment Canada yet, and they go off to the wilderness where there's no cell service or internet for the day. And so if there wasn't somebody maybe like myself saying, oh, by the way, like 3-4 o'clock this afternoon, maybe a good time to, if you see some dark clouds, head for your truck, park your truck on a clearing away from the trees, blah blah blah, right? Put context into what these things mean, but also communicate it to them before Environment Canada releases their severe storm watches and warnings at 10:30 a.m. or 11:30 a.m. whatever.
Speaking of context, what is your context of where you live in that? I'm just wondering, being a mountain man, 4,000 feet above sea level in British Columbia, how possible is it for you to live for how long without connection? And what is it you're able to actually, you mentioned who people that work and live and play off the land. How much of the land are you able to work, live, and play off without any necessary connection to be a mountain man? And how long could you go without going to town to pick up something that you essentially need, unless it's like medication or something?
I mean, I've spent a month or two at a time out here, so um, I think with what's in the house right now, it could probably last several months easily. If everybody around here started shooting moose, I don't know how many years we'd survive the
Mm-hmm.
apocalypse. But certainly, I'm quite good at fishing and
Yeah.
lots of berries, and we do, uh, plant some things in the garden. Certainly, I'd love to spend less at the grocery store, but at least a percentage of, without too much trouble. Uh, and collecting our own firewood, our own source of heat and whatnot. A percentage of the things that we have. That way, we do come by naturally, and the less I have to see town, the better. So,
What is a trip to town? What is a trip to town a necessity for? What are some things that you need to get?
well, when you live like this, you go and you stock up, right? You don't. I think, urban people have this ability to they want something, they can call someone who'll drop it off, or they can go to any store they want, uh, and get such said thing. That light was so bright. Um, so there's that sort of level of planning or just knowing how to live your life
Hmm.
in a way that when you go shopping, you got to make sure you have, or be able to live without it for a week or two or three, however long before you go back down to town. And that's, a 90-kilometer trip down from the mountains, and sometimes treacherous weather conditions and snow and moose and logging trucks, and then you get to town and there's COVID and human beings, and it smells like
Which
pulp
is
paper
which
mill.
is worse? Which is worse, the COVID or the humans?
they come the they're
And
hard to
ebbs
tell
and
which one
flows.
is which.
It's the same for everyone, I think.
So
Being
I guess
honest.
over there you can go to concerts and whatnot. There, Frankie was saying, is that the case? South Korea's pretty relaxed these days.
It's ebb and flows, but yeah, things are basically closed here. Like 5 people can go to one restaurant or something like that.
Oh, it's like that, is it?
It's pretty bizarre.
Yeah, I mean it's shut right down here in BC. Numbers are uh, pretty low all in all. I mean, we haven't had much of a. There's been a few small outbreaks in the north, but it's not been. It's not like looking at the United States and
Joey, pick a
just.
season for you, and what is a process? What is something that you go through in a week? I know you do different things during different seasons, whether they're busy or not, but what would be something that you do on a regular basis, say over a week or even over a month's time? Just I
Oh,
like the idea of you being a mountain man. So what does a mountain man do in the summer and the winter or preparing for the fall? What is something that you do?
right. Well, I mean, yeah, we could pick any season, any month of the season, and you might get a funny. So, January has I've been 2 or 3 times a week going out and falling trees and selling a load of firewood to this neighbor, that neighbor. Friday you get the kids and you get the kids all weekend. Sunday you drop them off, and then it's the Frankie show that night. And then Monday morning I wake up and it's Seafer radio broadcast. And well, I got a couple of days. Might try to make some money if I can, and then Friday's a Seafer radio broadcast. And I have to get the kids. It's kind of this, woo little circuit that just goes and repeat. Summertime though can be pretty exciting because depending on how busy our fire crew is or if we're called on standby. One summer there wasn't many fires. We just kind of sat around camloops and got paid to do basically nothing.
Mhm.
And so I enjoy the fire seasons, the action much more, but the action seasons can be intense, 14 straight days of very little sleep and going and far travel to some crazy backwater location no one else in the world could ever imagine going to. And I love those moments when, and seeing all the smoke and smells and looking around and saying, like, yeah, I'm here. This is cool.
What is some satisfaction you get and some difficulties you get of being in the position that you're in?
In the position I am as a firefighter, or
Whichever, just I'll say the mountain man. What is, and I'm thinking not being
well,
able to
okay,
get some
so
things.
well,
Yeah.
the truck, the 4x4 of my truck going this week was is a bummer because
What
I
happened
need
to
to.
it? What happened to it?
I'm not exactly sure yet. And I'm gonna try to find out in the morning.
Okay.
It was one of those things that when I finally got it home, I was mad and didn't look at it for the rest of the day. And like, it'll still be
Yeah,
broken
it's not
tomorrow.
good. It's not going to be gone.
Just walk away. So I got
Yeah.
to deal with that in the morning. But yeah, I need the truck to work, and I need to work. Uh, yeah, I need the truck to make money, and I need money to make the truck.
Needed to work,
Yes,
to work, to work, to work.
yeah. My big truck is really so much of. And if I'm not fighting fire in the summertime, me and the truck and whoever else, Allie or the kids, we could be down any logging road in any remote reach in this area. And you never know if we're panning for gold or shooting road chickens or catching fish or getting firewood or picking stones for the garden. Or there's just always things you can do and without having to. Like, I guess that I've had folks from the city say to me, like, it must be pretty boring up there, and like there's nothing much to do there. And I'm like, man, there's so much to do. Like,
Mhm.
what are you talking about? In fact, it doesn't cost us any money to do it either. We don't have to pay for parking when we go to the mountains, and $10 beers. And I don't drink, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
all you need is the ambition to go spend time out there and not be all that scared of it, and the experience, right? Each, when you're younger, you keep pushing yourself a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further, and when you're old enough, you know the boundaries and just walk right along like a tight.
What is a skill you over the last 15 years, did you say, living there that you had to? How long have you lived in Wells?
12 years we've had this place now.
What is a
Probably
skill
the
that you've learned that you had to develop? Maybe just the idea of being so remote.
one of the skills I got way better at in the last 15 years is falling trees, and it's very dangerous and I
So
mean
this
it's not
is
that
literally
difficult.
chopping down trees, which is known as falling trees. Is that
Well, I like to use a chainsaw. It's
how do
way
you do how did you learn that, and how does one go about falling trees properly? I saw like a video of one guy doing, I don't know, was it bananas or coconuts, and he was at the very top of it because it was weighed over so much, and then he chopped off the top and the thing went swinging back over. That would be scary.
I don't know much about cutting coconut trees, but
Especially in BC.
when well, I could have migrated here. um, so usually I make my front cut first. So I put my front cut in, you know, less than 30% of the tree usually of the way
Mhm,
in.
mhm.
So, sorry, I thought I was got my front cut in and do this here. And then I do another cut underneath like so, so that there's a wedge cut out
Mhm.
of the tree. And then, so it's kind of holding here. And then I cut in the back, nice straight line. And when I get to it, so that the line is really tight, I stick some wedges in there if it's not going to go over. Give them a nice tap till the tree sends. But often, if they got a bit of a lean to them, I just
Let him go.
send them on over. But
I
I mean,
find
I
it
knew how to fall.
interesting.
I could
Very
fall trees
interesting.
before BC because we have these big, big. They're not deciduous conifers. These pines are, lodgepole pines. They're very tall, very straight. Growing up in Ontario, where you have these more broadleaf trees, you can kind of cut them and send them because they're so top heavy. But with these ones, they they can kind of do whatever they want if you don't cut them properly. So getting really good at falling, and it's something that a lot of people are intimidated by is falling big trees. So
I've
um,
seen some people cut out a rectangle, a block, and then they put like not a crane. What's the word I'm looking for?
oh,
A
like
jack, like
a jack,
a
yeah.
jack inside of it, and then they pump it. That's a pretty interesting way to do it. Might take
I
a lot
think
more
when you have a
time.
tree that's 3 meters wide, something like that makes
Is
sense.
required. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean a lot of the ones I fall are about 2 feet at the butt. So
So then
big trees.
you fall them, and then you're cutting them off into.
Buck them into firewood or logs or so I mean that's just another example, right? This fall I also I do farm. I pick up jobs on farms. I'm just one of those guys that a lot of people, will give a shout to and be like,
Is there
hey,
something you rather do? Something that you prefer doing?
I'm loving doing this weather stuff more and more, and I'm really hoping that my career as a radio weatherman takes off.
What tool do you like to use now that maybe in the field of weather? What is something you it's essential for you? Maybe it's something you use when you go out walking. I saw some of your videos. You're checking out the tracks. Is there some
um,
tool that you use that's helpful for you?
there's so many tools. That's the thing. I mean, 10 different websites I check in on
Hmm.
and understand what the data they present means. It's not just enough to see a weather report with the sunshine icons. I need to see maps with pressure lines, and I need to know I need to see what the meteorologist sees. So there's that, but it's my eyes and my ears so much of the time, really. I mean, I do have some weather um, uh, instruments, barometers and things like
Hmm.
that, and uh, things you can use to find relative humidity or wind direction. I do own some of these instruments, but I mean, number one is just paying attention to every detail and not getting too caught up on one. You know,
Mhm.
it's 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 seeing the bigger picture where you're going to start having success. Because I have had in the past where I get too caught up in one detail and I really want it to happen, and then it doesn't happen. It's like, well, that wasn't predicting weather, that was just hoping. So you got
Knowing
to you got to call it as it's happening, not as you
hope it
what your
goes.
preconceived notion is.
Knowing that you do the work that you do, opposed to, as you said, people who find a career, do you have advice for people getting in, starting a job, whether it's a kid throwing bales on a tractor or driving the tractor or doing some odd and end jobs or changing their career? Do you have a tip for people who are just getting into work?
Well, I think work hard and be honest and have solidarity with your coworkers is really important. I don't think that anything that makes you extremely miserable is worth it. No matter, I'd rather suffer poverty than suffer a bad boss or unsafe working conditions or things like that. So, knowing your rights as a worker and knowing what you will put up with and won't put up with, finding things that you're passionate about and working on them. Not everyone's going to start their own thing. And some people are really happy to just do this one job or this other job. I mean, I'm I'm in, part of my mental madness is if I had to work 40 hours a week at one job for 10 years, it would just destroy me and all of the freedom and creativity and the energy I have. And so you have to find a way that works for you, and it's going to be hard work no matter what way you do it.
Do you think a
So
lot of people are working in misery?
I think a lot of people are. Yep. I think I think misery is a chronic problem right now in our society in general. I think you couldn't have a situation like the United States is having without huge disillusionment, huge disenfranchisement, a huge amount of inequality, a huge amount of unfairness to the basic social setup. Uh, People are feeling that. I used to find when I talk politics with people, you know, being going to Alberta and playing country music to a province that's very right leaning, and being very left wing myself. One thing I did pick up on there, and I was able to speak their language on it, was man, people hate their jobs, their bosses, the traffic. There's a lot of unhappiness right now. People are putting up with things they shouldn't have to put up with, and it's your one life, man. It's your one chance to live this beautiful thing that is the inside of you, right? So yeah, you're gonna have to work hard. I don't know for who. You're gonna have to find that. Sometimes you're gonna have to just put up with something for a little while so you can get by into the next thing. But at the same time too, when I've had some of my cool jobs in the past, like CBC came and shot a TV show here, and I got hired to be production assistant fixer. And people said, "How did you get that job?" Maybe wondering if I had connections from, which I kind of did through my music career. But I said, really, it's just that you know I was one guy who didn't already have a job, so it's like when you jump from girlfriend to girlfriend from to girlfriend, and but you're each time you're with one of these girlfriends, the one you really were in love with your whole life becomes available, and you missed out because you settled for something that made your life miserable to begin with, right? So I don't know what that balance is, and we have this society where work is unequal, and people are having a hard time finding full employment that pays the bills, and that security of like I own my house now, and I made sure to, I didn't care if it was a rod to a building we had to fix for 25 years. It was ours, and we didn't have to play that game anymore. And a lot of people, you think about, spending $40,000 on an old building like this. That's what some of my friends pay in 1 or 2 or 3 years of rent down in the city. And you know, the solution isn't for everybody to move out to here. So I don't know what the solution for you is. You have to find that out for yourself and what you'll put up with and what you love. But don't fall in the trap of being I don't want to pick on the millennials or whatever, but the world doesn't really owe you anything either. So you know you can't just sit and wait for it too much. Gonna have to you're gonna have to put up with some things you don't want to do or don't like. But that's life. You have a long time to live your life, so just keep nudging yourself to the direction you want to go, and maybe someday you'll get there.
Do
I
you
don't want
think?
to be one of these people who say like, follow your dreams, anything can happen. But I mean, if you don't work towards it, if you don't believe in it, well, it's not going to happen.
Do you
No
think
one's going to make it happen for you.
there's one of the reasons is because people are trying to get so advanced, whether it's technologically or emotionally or socially, and we're getting away from where you are in nature. And you said not that everyone has to come here, but we're trying to get away from the old farming house or the old ways of doing things. And it seems, do you think that's one of the reasons or a possibility that we're trying to get so far advanced we're just getting away from the simpler things?
Well, no, advancement is still good. I mean,
Hmm.
we can't turn our back on science and on progress in that sense. But it's more about what is the meaning of life and why are we trying to make these advancements. And we've built networks of cities where people don't know their neighbors, and their neighborhoods are set up so that you don't know your neighbor, and there's no central place, and there's no community hub. So we've built a society that is disconnected, and you go from your bed to your cell phone to your car phone to your work computer to your, and hey, I'm a computer user too, so don't get me wrong, but this disconnect and the inability to slow down, just slow down and let the world come to you a little bit
You
and
make
be
a good
ready
point.
to
I live here amongst a forest of apartment buildings. They're 15 to 20 stories high. And there's just in this, and some people think we live in the country that live in this area. And in the middle of, say, 6 apartment buildings, this one little neighborhood of apartment buildings, we have a kids' play area with a small, I don't know, 20 by 20, 20 meters by 20 meters patch of grass, and they're not allowed to play on it. So as you said,
criminal.
it's, and I've fought for a long time, and I fight every summer that no, and I do play on it. But I'm like, this is the only place these kids can come, and because they're not allowed, kids stay in and play games or watch TV. Like, there's so
Yeah,
many
and you don't get those
restrictions.
skills. You don't get, and we're not allowed to just turn our children loose the way I was as a kid.
Me
I was
too.
born in the late '70s, so you know, we were still allowed at that age. A lot of us who, at least were rural, uh, to walk out the door and be gone. And if we made mistakes and got hurt, you know, I can remember a few bad injuries, having a long ways to go to get back to the house.
Is there
And
any
that's the way it was back
mistakes,
then.
Joey? Speaking of mistakes, is there any mistakes that you made that you've learned that are they're helping you along your path with work and in your journey with life?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was an alcoholic, so don't do that. I'm a lot happier
There's Joey's
as a
meme. I was an alcoholic. Don't do that.
I'm a lot happier these days being sober, and those of us who've been through a lot of trauma in life um, and a lot of experiences too. Sometimes it's not just the trauma that will get to you. It's the fact that this amazing thing happened, and this trauma happened too. That's like double twist on your head, right? So, oh no, I got off on a tangent
No,
again.
no, that's what I asked. Just if there's a mistake you made and that happens.
Yeah.
But I have another question for that in a moment. But where do you place, and I think from your perspective, you have some good insight, education and exercise?
Well, those are fundamentals. Um, First of all, we are meant to work, and that's a great thing that, why we work. It's like, well, because we're meant to. We're physical creatures. We're supposed to be. I like what this old man, Alex Allen, used to say to me. He'd be just about 100 years old now. Um, you don't wear out in this country, you rust out. And it really says it well. Like you gotta keep moving. You gotta keep the body moving. With the body moving, the brain does better. But also we're creatures of curiosity and desire for knowledge. And I have a hard time believing that just the extreme conspiracy theory fueled craze that's happening. I don't understand how that can be so pervasive, that people can be so mistrusting of our human achievement of knowledge.
Mhm.
All this knowledge we acquired, we spent thousands of years coming to this point, and then people are just like, no, that's not the way it is. And you give them scientific fact, they say, you're just been watching too much of those left-wing kooks, snowflake. And it's just ridiculous to try to have a conversation with
Mhm.
people these days. And
Mhm.
maybe that's why I like talking about the weather.
Safe.
It's safe in a sense. And in my group of people start, you know, throwing out climate denial, conspiracy, kooky things,
Mhm.
I just shut them down because it's my group. No, this isn't the place for your wacko theories. No, it wasn't caused by airplane contrails. Oh,
Well, certainly
get off my group.
things are getting worse. No one can deny. Things are not getting better. I wouldn't say so. Whoever would
No,
deny
we're the
some
human
things.
human species is in a serious crisis. It's
Mhm.
we're teetering on utter catastrophe, socially, militarily, with the state of the empires, or I like to say the empire, really. You might know better than me. I mean, there's 400 American military bases surrounding the general theater
We
of
have
your part of the world,
we have
right?
35,000, I think 35,000 soldiers here in Korea.
Yeah.
I think
So
Russia just said, or they found out Russia has a super nuclear something that they're sharing with China. And uh, I don't know. Yeah.
the empire is in
It's a
serious
mess.
trouble. It is, and it's collapsing from within, and it's scary because it's always a double combination when an empire has collapsed in history of attack from within and attack from without. And does the American uh, society actually have the ability to function highly enough to maintain its empire? It doesn't seem apparent. I don't. I'm not convinced that Joe Biden is going to right all the wrongs that we're in, even if maybe he's a well-meaning man in some ways, and did a good thing putting Bernie Sanders in charge of the budget. But the problems we're facing are huge, and what it takes now more than ever is honesty to deal with them. And that's not what QAnon's about. That's not what Trump was about, right? It's total rejection of the gains of the enlightenment, of reason, of the search for truth. And people will talk about my love of science like it's a bias. Like, well, that's just because you're biased with science. Like, no, that's not what's. You can't be biased towards science. It doesn't work that way. Science is about the collection of truth. And if something is proven to be untrue, science will admit that and change it. It doesn't just stubbornly cling to, you know.
Well, there's a certainty that empires do fall. So, and it's unfortunate too. So, however that happens, I'm not sure. Um, but it is certain that one day all the good ones and the bad ones will fall.
I'd love to imagine there's so many possibilities with what we can achieve as a species, including interstellar travel. I mean, it's all not that far away for what we can do. But
You need people to
as
work
we
together.
stand right now, as we stand in our camps right now, um, we're in serious danger of annihilating our planet ourselves,
Well, what about you,
or
Joey?
rendering it.
What is your goal? What do you hope to accomplish in your work and in your world?
I don't know if I have much of a goal, to be honest. Just keep trying to get by and by. And as the group grows, and as my following has been growing again, to me, what I like is having a bigger canvas to paint on.
Hmm.
So all the benefits of any kind of success that could happen, like say I get more radio weather jobs or things like that, and I can make a better part of my living just doing what I'm doing right now. That would be so awesome. But in itself, all that is an avenue to lead me towards a larger palette to paint on, a
Hmm.
bigger place to be creative. So that's my drive as an artist of sorts, right? Is to not succeed necessarily for the sake of profit, but for the sake of it's what we do. We're artists. We gotta talk. Us talkers have to talk. Us drawers have to draw. Us singers have to sing. And, you know,
Well, you can do a lot of those
it's
things. Is there anything about you people may not understand? And by understanding this, they would have a better appreciation of you and your work.
uh, yeah. There's a lot to misunderstand, and I mean, I don't know. I won't speak to other people's misconceptions or whatever. I mean, there's people who do not like me, and I think the thing that probably they are bothered by the most in the end is I just don't care. To hell with you then. I'm
Hmm.
not going to try to make it better for you. So
Is there a reason
certainly,
why? Is there a reason why people misunderstand you and then take the wrong route of
well,
pushing you off?
I think in general, there's a lot of pressure for people to be very narrow socially as to what they'll accept or be willing to do, without. So they have a hard time dealing with, say, someone like Frankie or someone like myself who, I really can't control what comes out of my mouth all that much sometimes. And I say what I think and the way I say it. And it's like, I just realized I was like in Home Hardware in Quesnel the other day, and the woman in there is like, "Oh, I thought that was you on the phone. I recognized your voice." I said, "Oh yeah, cool." And then I proceeded to just probably sound like a lunatic to the poor woman. I've been sitting in wells for a week, not talking to any humans. Like, "Oh yeah, well, blah 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 blah." It's just like, it's like,
Hmm.
you know, uh, I am what I am. It's not a choice. So it's a mental condition.
Well, only a couple more questions for you, but Joey, is there some adversity that you have faced in your lifetime, and how could you use that adversity to encourage people with the adversity they face?
Faced a lot of adversity, man. I nearly died of tuberculosis. I've struggled with major depression and PTSD a lot of my life. I struggle with addiction a lot. I've had to fight for my existence on this planet. I think one thing that I was lucky to have was my sense of creativity, that it kept me uh, doing things, I guess, through it all, right? But I really have in my life just been through hell and back, and that it's in some ways made me very insightful and very strong. In some ways, made me very scared and wary of chaos and random people doing crazy things. I think the road to recovery is really all about looking at all those things and accepting them for what they are. And it's taking a lot of courage for me to come back out of my shell. Like, it's been, a number of years since I've been, 3, 4 years since I've been a road musician. I've kind of fallen into my little shell where it's safe and detached from the world a bit. And so it's taking some courage and bravery to be like, yeah, I'm gonna come out of my shell and start talking again. And people might not understand at first. And yeah, I mean, the if you're in a bad mood, watch Frankie McDonald.
I don't know if I told you, but I was like, Frankie, what if people are, and how can you encourage people who are facing adversity? Watch my videos. And
Yeah.
he's right, right?
When I've had some down days, they've got me through them.
Do you have encouragement for other people besides watching Frankie McDonald's videos, knowing what you've been through?
Well, it could sound quite empty to encourage you if I don't really know you and what you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't want to just say the words encouraging. I encourage you all to be empty about it, but uh quite a few of my friends have either fully stopped or really challenged themselves on their drinking because of my attitude to and my change in my life. um I'm at a place where I didn't think I would ever really get to inside, so you can't give up.
Mm-hmm.
uh you'll never get there if you do. You'll never find out how much weirder it can get. Got to stick through that. But I mean, there is no simple solutions, and we have a society that wants to give you a simple solution. If you're sad, take this, do that. Just talk, and it doesn't work that way. I mean, to really face yourself is where you're going to find healing, and that's a hard battle. That takes complete honesty. And if you're not ready to be honest with yourself, it may be a while before you're ready to take the next step in your life, whatever that step is.
I think too, knowing how difficult life is, and when you have, say, talents and skills that some people have and you have in particular, like you are a talented weather forecaster. You know things as much, I mean, you'll say no, but as a meteorologist, you have a musical talent and ability that most people don't have. You said you wish you were more popular, but you still have a magnificent writing ability, and you're wonderful on musical instruments.
Thanks,
You're
Brian.
and you're fighting fires, right? Most people only hear about those fires that are being fought on the west coast of North America, and you're the guy that's fighting those fires. You're living out in as a mountain man where most people would be too afraid of, let alone be able to. So
Try to live life to the fullest.
when we have those difficulties, I think it's part of it is, wondering our purpose, wondering why we're here, and living that to that the goal or achievement. But in the meantime, taking those little steps with the skills and talents that we've been given, and finding little nuggets, gold nuggets, if you will, of joy and family and friends, and honing your skills and doing those things for the glory of whatever you do, whatever you do those things to the glory of.
Someone said, "You're not into the 12-step program, are you?" I said, "12 steps? Hell no! 12 million steps, man.
Yeah.
You want 12 easy answers?
Yeah.
You're probably gonna end up back in the gutter if that's your attitude, man. Because
Is there anything
there's
else, Joey, that we haven't touched upon that you'd like to add? Some things you're doing, or um, also how people can get in touch with you? Is there anything
well, you
else
can
that we?
send me a message on the Facebook, I guess, if you like. But check out my YouTube channel. See what we're doing with the Meteorological Report and the episodes, and feel free to go to Joey Only Outlaw Band at bandcamp.com. You can hear my albums for free and all that there. So have a listen there. But all in all, just take care of yourselves and treat yourself good every day. Try to find some way to treat yourself. You know,
Yeah.
realize realize you deserve that. A little bit of self kindness.
I have one final question for you, Joey.
Fire away.
And you touched on it. You didn't say in particular. You said it generally, but why do you work?
Oh, I'm a Dutchman. I couldn't stop. But I mean, there's so many answers to that. I got child support to pay. But
Yeah.
I think I'm hoping to find myself by this time next year in a different set of circumstances in my life as a working person, and I guess we work towards those things to get there, right? I mean, we don't have we have to put food in the cupboard, sure. Part of why I do some of the things I do is just pure creative drive. I can't really help it. So, um, why do I work? Partly, I've always said I hate having a job, but I love working
Mhm.
hard, right? So, even if I'm home for a week with nothing to do, eventually I got to get out and put some. I mean, I'm a pretty strong guy in my 40s, but you don't just get that you don't keep that if you sit around too much. So, the human being is meant to work in a sense. You're meant to be busy, not crazy busy, but meant to have things to do, to create, and to build things. And that's our spirit. It's part of who we are as a species. It's one of those great gifts we have. Or we work because that's who we are.
Well, Joey, I appreciate this time. Joey Onley, the weatherman, the musician, the firefighter, the mountain man, who has many gifts and skills and talents. And I would want to encourage you, not with a blanket encouragement, but to keep going. Joey, I know life is not easy. We all have adversity one way or another. As you mentioned, yours to keep on going for whatever your motivation is, whatever those goals you might have. But I like what you just said is you don't like having a job, but you like to work. And I think that
I
shows.
don't ever see myself as a person who retires.
Yeah,
I don't I'll be 75, 80 years old, still out there doing something or other,
yeah.
odd jobbing or this or that, or who knows. Uh, I have a feeling that work opportunities are on the horizon right now. And I don't just mean about weather, but other things in
Yeah.
life. And
Yep.
just got to wait the winter out and see
Yep.
where it goes. So
You got the
it's been a,
skills, you
been a
got the
bit of a hard
talent,
winter.
and I
Now
think you have the
I just gotta walk a line now.
you have the work ethic. I think, Joey. You're just looking for that one thing it's gonna
That sense of meaning of
the
like, well,
interest.
like I say, I'd rather go out to the mountain for the day. I can sell a load of wood for $200, do that in 3 hours and work for myself, or I can go do something that makes me totally unhappy. Now that other job that would make me totally unhappy, uh, but maybe probably make most people pretty happy. But I'd be sitting there doodling and thinking of songs and like, man, this is monkey stuff.
Well, I think as little as you think you are, but I think you might think you are, is you're a very personable person, and you have a lot to offer other people. So
Thank
while
you, man.
you enjoy your mountain man title, I think you have a lot to, when you come down to the town, you have a lot to offer the people, the wisdom from your experience, and don't ever think that's not valuable.
It feels weird after 20 years of climbing mountains to realize, oh wait, I'm at that age now where you can call me that. It's not something weird.
No, no, no.
I'm
I
in
think
my
it's interesting.
40s and I've been at it a long time living this while, and you never know whether it's a fire call in town here or it's someone paying me to guide them, or you just never know whether it's snowmobile guiding or fishing or hunting. You just never know in a week what I might get up to. And I realize that's part of the beauty of making some of the videos I'm making too, is that a lot of people are kind of blown away who don't live in BC, or they see something like that. They just think, man, people still do that. Like, yeah, man, check
Well,
it out.
keep
So
up the work, Joey. Joey
right
Only.
on, Brian.
Thank you for this time. I've appreciated. I've learned a lot, and I truly value the work that you're bringing, even though it's not full time at the moment. And thank you for coming on, and I appreciate the work that you do.
You're a beauty, buddy. Keep talking.
Hi, it's BrianVee. Please subscribe, share, like, comment below. It's helpful for me, and it lets me know that what I bring to you is valuable. If you would like to be on the show, just contact me at WhyWeWork, BrianV@gmail.com. If you know someone else that would bring value that I could interview, I would be more than willing to. I'm Brian V, and this is Why We Work.